I'm Frank Partnoy, and I'm the author of Wait, the Art and Science of Delay. I hope that same logic works here. There's a kind of race between technology on the one hand and the human capacity to keep up with technology on the other hand. And we have the capacity to take a step back and understand how we need to evolve and how we need to move and how quickly we should be moving. I have a lot of faith in the resilience of human decision making and our capacity to understand our own biases and the problems with our own snap reactions. So I'm hopeful that we'll persevere. If you think about sort of what kinds of muscles we've been exercising in recent years, increasingly we're exercising our sort of intellectual fast twitch fibers, and those aren't the ones that are necessarily the best for the kinds of races we'll have to run with technology. Many of us will have to use technology at a very fast pace, but we'll always need leaders and crucial decision makers to use their slow twitch intellectual fibers to take a step back and engage in conscious contemplation. And in order to be able to use those effectively, you have to exercise them. You have to get practiced at sitting with a book for 8 hours or taking a month to make some important decision, at having an idea that maybe is deeply conflicted or puzzling sit in your brain for a year as you puzzle over it. So we need a certain group of society to be doing that, even as technology is buzzing along at these increasingly fast paces. And one of the interesting things I found from my interviews, I interviewed over 100 people for Wait, and I found increasingly that within institutions, that the people who were at the bottom of the institutions were those who were required to exercise their fast twitch intellectual capacity and sort of keep up with instant email. They were reprimanded in some ways for taking a step back and thinking, and that what power is and moving up within the pyramid of an organization is partly driven by the ability of the person to carve out time to make more strategic decisions, to not be subject to the expectation that they'll immediately respond to an email or a phone call. And the CEOs that I interviewed and the senior government leaders I talked to all were very comfortable with this notion that they would not respond to crises, that they would take a step back. I heard several anecdotes, several people actually mentioned this Lynn Nofziger anecdote that he would tell people, if you take everything in your inbox and simply move it to your outbox, that you'll have done the right thing 99% of the time. And there's this notion at the top of organizations of not responding, of delaying, of waiting. And I think one interesting kind of meta question that came out of Wait is that the locus of power, in some sense, within an organization is related to the capacity to delay. That the most senior people are those who are like the wise elders who can kind of sit back and think about decisions. And that what the people at the junior levels of an organization should be doing is, as much as they can, satisfying the immediate needs of the job, but also carving out the capacity for delay, the ability to take a little bit longer with decisions. So hopefully if there's one kind of overarching message, it's that as we're learning more in our careers, as we're moving along within organizations, that delay is a kind of important asset, and that we should build these long, slow twitch muscle fibers in order to enhance our own capacities to delay and move up the ladder. Reagan is a great example, and Joe Stiglitz is a great example, someone who's been incredibly patient and who has set forth an agenda that is really a decades-long agenda that will outlive him, that he says, he told me, will clearly outlive him, and he hopes will have impact in centuries rather than in years. And Deng Xiaoping is another example. The kinds of important intellectual leaders of society have been those people who have very, very long-term time frames. And I think you're right that it's an important lesson for people in law and also for law professors. Law professors are as subject to this as anyone, and we have this sort of impetus to get on blogs and to instantly respond to news or regulatory changes, and that's a useful thing to do. But really, one of the things that law professors can do that's more important is to provide, as a kind of intellectual backbone for the regulatory and legal apparatus, a decades-long vision about where regulatory change should go, and to resist the urge that technology pushes on us to respond to the news of the day. And that doesn't mean we should never call journalists back. We should. It's important for us to play that role. But that we should keep in mind that, again, sitting back and thinking about 10 years, 20 years, there aren't that many people doing that in society. And so I hope that law professors will play that role.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.